Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of my success stories. And today I have my very dear former client, Molly Bassart, here with me today. Hi, Molly.
Hi.
And I am so excited because you have such a unique journey, how to go from self-doubting and wondering, is there even the right man out there, and being single eternally, to actually having a rather unexpected turn of events that led you to this incredible relationship that you are now in. So really excited to hear that from you today, ladies. So let's go ahead and get the party started. So what was your dating and romantic life like before we started working together? So let's actually start in the beginning, Molly, right? So everyone's starting, what's happening? What's happening? Let's start the beginning.
Yeah, there was a lot of years before I even started working with you that I was dating and I was just stuck in horrible patterns. I would meet someone and really like them, and then they would disappear after, a couple of weeks or a couple of months. It seems like I couldn't have gotten beyond like 3 months in a relationship and no one was committing to me. And it was happening over and over and over again. And like, I was desperate for answers. I had learned a little bit about anxious attachment systems, so I knew that was happening, but I didn't have the tools necessarily to cope with it or to, heal that within me. So that's kind of what led me down the rabbit hole of finding you and working with you.
Yeah, and I remember, right, there was a lot around like emasculating men, or not really knowing how to embody that more feminine nature, right, without giving your own power away. So there was sort of like this over masculine to protect sort of the feminine, right? And
Right.
this concern to be needy or crazy, which, by the way, I can totally relate to. Like that was me too a few years ago. Absolutely.
Right.
How to communicate your needs, right? But like in a balanced way. How do you actually do that, right? And so tell us a little bit more about like, how did that make you feel when you were in that place, when things just, like it can be so disheartening, right? Like nobody's getting back, or 2 weeks later they all ghost on you, and it's just really confusing and sending like conflicting messages to you.
Yeah, well, I can point out right before I signed up with your course, I was dating this man who I thought was amazing. I thought he was everything I've ever wanted, but he was emotionally unavailable. I mean, he was completely, classic case of an avoidant. When he was around, he was really invested in me, and then I wouldn't hear from him for weeks. And I really liked him, and this went on for months. I mean, this went on for at least 3-4 months. And honestly, I was so anxious and I was so desperate for answers. I wanted to know what was wrong with me. I felt like there was something that was just innately wrong with me. And
Mhm.
I mean, I felt alone and kind of lost in that whole process. I mean, just so your listeners have a little reference point, I was old enough. I mean, I was like 28, I think, when I went through that. So at that phase in my life, a lot of my close friends were in long-term committed relationships or they were married. So I was looking around kind of like, what the heck is wrong with me? Like, what am I doing wrong? And really, really worried that there was something wrong with me. But of course there wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
totally. But of course, the fish doesn't know that it's wet, right? So we can start to feel really insecure and
mhm.
inadequate, even, right? If we're like, because is there like a curse on me? Like, what's
Yeah.
going on? And then how did you feel with your other girlfriends having more success and getting engaged or getting the boyfriend?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was really detached from it. Funny enough, I'm doing now I'm working for a bridal company, not solely a bridal company. I have my own business doing marketing, but one of my big clients is a bridal company. So I'm always looking at engagement photos and wedding gowns. And I was thinking like, if I had worked with this client 2 years ago where I was emotionally, it would have been extremely triggering, and I would have felt jealous, and I would have felt even defeated seeing these other women who had something that I wanted but didn't think was possible for me. So, obviously you can see that my mindset has changed. I actually see this now and I'm like, I get excited. I'm happy for them. It fills me with joy. And I never thought I'd be at that place.
Oh my gosh, it's so incredible, right? It really teaches you, right? You just get as much as you can handle. So you got this now, and we'll go into that in a moment a little bit also, what impact it had on your purpose as well, like starting to focus on yourself and to working to become more into alignment. But before we do that, we of course we're all burning to hear, right? Because you have a very unique, and I love I do the story because I tell a lot of women that, but I love that it actually happened to you, which is how did you meet your partner?
Yeah. So, like a lot of people, I'm sure, I was affected by COVID, and I actually ended up moving from New York City back to my hometown. And I wasn't sure if it was going to be a permanent move or not. So I thought, let me get on Tinder and unmatch and see what my options are here. And I met someone on Tinder. He was a nice guy. We saw each other a couple of times, but there was really no chemistry there. And I ended up meeting his best friend. And the moment that I met his best friend, I was like, oh no, I've got a crush on him. And we hit it off. We had really great chemistry. He was a really great guy. And I wasn't sure if it was, my typical pattern of liking something that I can't have. So I really did put it a little bit on the back burner. I didn't put too much pressure on it, but I kept him around as friends. And we kept speaking over the summer after me and the other person had broken up. And one thing led to another. And eventually, after months, I would say it was like 3 or 4 months of talking, he finally asked me out. So that's how it all started.
Oh my God, I love the story, right? Because I always tell women it's so easy to be like, I'm kind of interested in him and I'm kind of not. And then there's like so many women who are kind of would cut that off. And I always say, you don't know why you met this guy. You don't know if it's like the cousin or the neighbor or the coworker, like just kind of stay on it, stay with it, until it's really like sort of, I don't want to, or there's somebody really more significant that's coming into your life. And I remember I told you that story. It's like, you never know how that man comes to you, right? So it's like such an unexpected turn of events that it happens to be the best friend, right? So you already felt sort of the frequency, but it wasn't quieted, right? But it's like, it led you to, this was sort of like the bridge. He was sort of the bridge.
Yeah. And it's funny. Even when the person that I was dating had mentioned his best friend, he mentioned him a lot. I had this like weird feeling of like, I don't know how to say, a familiarity or like knowingness that it was going to be like a really great connection. So
yeah. Oh my gosh.
When I met him, I was just like blown away.
And I love that because I remember I always told you, like, you have that innate wisdom, like trust your intuition more. You have a super high level of authority emotionally inside of yourself, right? So I love that you just kind of got that reflected back to you, like literally, okay, here's the proof. You can really rely on it. So tell us a little bit more about like, what does your love life look like now with your boyfriend? How do you feel now compared to how you, of course, felt before?
Right. So I think one of the big things that we worked on when I was your client was that I was in a relationship that was not really aligned with me. And, getting back to not feeling confident in my choices and being able to say no to something that wasn't quite right, because I was in this place, this was 2 years ago, right? So I was in this place of feeling like, well, if he likes me, then, I have to stick around. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't in a place of choosing. I was in a place of being chosen. And that has shifted completely because I feel like I am being chosen and I'm choosing finally. And in terms of the relationship, like I just feel at ease with him. I can communicate with him very easily. He makes me laugh. I feel like he's my best friend, and we have great chemistry, and everything that I ever wanted in a partner, he has those qualities. Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's better than I thought I could have had.
So like now you start to feel more supported and cherished, I would guess, right?
Yep.
Like that's what he sounded like when we were like talking before.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's great. I mean, he's smart, he's funny, he's sensitive too, which is interesting because I had the pattern of being with emotionally unavailable men, so I hadn't been able to like kind of penetrate those levels of emotion, and with him he's very open, and it makes me feel so safe to be with him. I mean, one thing that I've felt from the moment that I even heard about him, and certainly from the moment that I met him, was this sense of safety and
Mm.
yeah, and calm, and it feels like every time I'm with him it's like I can take a deep breath, like a sigh. It's like getting into a bathtub. That's how like relaxing and at
Oh,
ease.
oh, that's so great. Oh, you so deserve it, Molly. And so tell us a little bit more about some of the main lessons and things that helped you the most in your journey that you learned from my program. So like any beliefs that shifted for you, any techniques or principles.
Yeah. So in terms of techniques or principles, I think I'm trying to recall what we worked on, but I know that a lot of where I was in my head.
Mhm.
And I think working with you, I was able to move some of that energy and that knowing more into my body.
Mm.
And I was able to, relax my nervous system. And it took time, but I did, and
Mhm.
start to listen to my intuition and start to get out of the dog paddling desperation that I had before, working with you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was sort of like, your nervous system was so used to sort of the avoidant dismissive attachment style. So there's not a lot of capacity, right?
Yep.
So that was really like what you were saying. It's like really increase that capacity for yourself so you can actually say yes to a secure attachment style, right? To somebody who shows up consistently, you know what I mean? Who calls you back when he says he will. And you can
Yeah.
rely on him.
And I think like another thing that I thought before I started working with you, and was something that we worked on a lot, and it took me time. I mean, honestly, probably took me until maybe this relationship, I'm not quite sure, was understanding that I could be in a relationship with someone that I was interested in who treated me right. Because I
Mm.
had never had that. I'd always been in relationships with people who treated me right, but I wasn't really interested in them, or they weren't the right fit.
Uh-huh.
Or I was, chasing after the emotionally unavailable avoidant man who I was desperately interested in, who I was convinced was my soulmate. But of course, that was my anxious attachment system. So a lot of the work that I've done too has been to heal that anxious attachment
Mm.
system. And that was something that we worked on a lot together.
And how has it shifted for you? Because we talked a lot about communicating your needs without coming off as crazy or needy. Like, how has that shifted for you?
Yeah, I think what it took practice. So it took the uncomfortable practice of saying what I wanted and needed in a relationship. And so that takes a little bit of time, but it also took just a self-assuredness that I didn't have, and probably a self-worth in knowing what I wanted and needed in a relationship
Mhm.
wasn't too much. And I could advocate for my needs and the things that I want without being crazy. And that those are actually very normal, healthy things.
Yes, that's what I want to get at, right? Was like actually normalizing it. That when somebody tells you you're needy, you're like, yeah, guess what? Surprise. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, and so are you, we all have needs, right? So that's like developing a healthier relationship really to it, a
Yeah.
healthy association, right? Yeah, totally. And then also what's a little bit more unique, we have like some other women in the program now more and more, was also really along with that stepping into your purpose more. right?
Yes.
Because we were really working on like, hey, and I said that, like, that will be like a phase where it's going to be easier for you when you really become aligned on all levels. And so tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more how that has shifted for you, like your whole life path in terms of your career and where you're at with that now.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, again, when we met, was a bit in, I guess in a bit of a rut for a couple of reasons. I was living in New York City and I'd been there for 6 years, the better part of 6 years. And I think I had just kind of hit a wall there. There's this chaotic energy there. And I couldn't admit to myself that I don't necessarily thrive in that environment and in that energy. And I was also, because of that, I think I was in this survival mode, right? And I was working for other people and I wasn't very happy. I did real estate for a little while, very unhappy. And I had a marketing background before doing real estate. And when everything happened with COVID, I kind of was given this like beautiful excuse to leave New York. And I moved home to my hometown, and I got reconnected with myself and my safety, and kind of was able to take some time to figure out exactly what I wanted out of life and out of a career and what fulfills me. And I mean, I have some amazing skill sets from my experience in marketing, and I've seen small businesses, especially in my community, not really taking advantage of a lot of free and easy tools to use in terms of marketing. And so I decided to start my own company helping small businesses create more sales through creative marketing and updating their website. I think people think, especially small business owners now, they think website design, it's going to be super expensive. It's not that expensive. They could use a beautiful templatized website on, Squarespace or something like that, and hire someone like me to help them design it beautifully and effectively so that it's converting more visitors into paying customers. So anyway, I've been doing that, and it's been really fulfilling because I get to actually help people who, I believe in and who are doing good things, and these small businesses in my community. So it's been really wonderful.
I just like love that, just see you way more on like life purpose, right? Like way more like really feeding. So you really see how one area like love also feeds into the other part, which is purpose, or vice versa, right? So it's really sort of this ecosystem that really works together. It's a sort of nourishes and feeds each other. And so I'd love to hear a little bit from you.
Mm-hmm.
And the link will be below to Molly's website and all of that. So we'll do all of that, ladies, in the show notes. So what were some of your main concerns or fears that you had before hiring me, or just hiring in general, a dating coach to help you with this? And how did you overcome those concerns?
Yeah, I mean, I think I did a lot of due diligence, and like I was on your website a lot and reading reviews and probably listening to things like this to make sure that
success stories.
exactly, like to make sure that if I'm going to be investing this money into, myself and into dating, that I'm going to get what I want, which is a healthy, happy, loving relationship. So I think what I did to overcome it, again, at a certain point, you just have to try it, because I always tell so I have a friend who reminds me very much of where I was 2 years ago. And she's stuck in patterns. She's not dating the right people. She knows there's something wrong, but she doesn't want to necessarily take the steps to do anything about it. And so I think at a certain point, you just have to realize, like, you have to try something different from what you've been doing. If you're stuck in patterns, you've got to make a change, and you can't necessarily always do it on your own. That's why you need people to help you, to guide you, people who've done the change themselves. Like your story related very much to me, because before before this relationship, really, I hadn't been in a fulfilling relationship. I hadn't had long-term committed relationships either. So seeing you, knowing that you had a very similar experience to me and that you were happily married also helped me to make that decision.
Yeah, it helps, right? So if like who you hire has what you want, it's very helpful, for
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's so great. I mean, Molly, I'm just like really inspired by your story and also how you stayed on it, right? Because it's so easy to be like, oh, it's not working, or it's short term, it's not the result that I want, because we can get really attached to outcomes at a
Yeah.
much quicker timeline
Yeah.
than actually our nervous system is ready for, right? Because like there's always like the mind that's like, I want it tomorrow, but the nervous system is like, let's give it some time, okay? Because I'm just going to sabotage it and push it away. So
Yeah.
I just really want to acknowledge you for you really honoring that different timing inside of yourself, but also keeping the trust, right? You've built a lot of trust throughout this work inside of yourself and listening more to
Yeah.
yourself. It's just so inspiring. And so tell the women, because you said like you would be also willing to, if they have any questions, they can reach out to you.
Absolutely. And I know the journey, sorry to interrupt, like the
Yep.
journey hasn't been linear for me. That's another thing that I think I want them to know, is that I had some moments where I felt like I was amazing, and then, I took 5 steps forward and 2 steps back, and that happens in your journey. So don't be hard on yourself if you're in that place. That does happen. And I mean, I'm so thankful for you, because I was able to, with your help, get to a place where I kind of felt like I didn't need the relationship necessarily. Like that's just been the icing on the cake.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
anyway, I'd love to talk to anybody. If anybody wants to connect, I'm happy to do that.
Awesome. And we'll have the links below also to your website. So for anyone who has any marketing needs or just starts their business, because I have like more and more women who are just like saying, I want to do my own thing, right? Because once you step into your truth, and you know that yourself too, right? And you start listening to that, or you move out of your home. I mean, now, especially what you said for this year, particularly, it's been so much like, so there will be like several people who are like, yeah, I mean, I just want to do something different. And so like, thank you so much for making yourself available to that, Molly, and
Of
to,
course. Yeah. And any marketing advice or tips,
Totally. Yeah. So we'll put that link below to Molly's website as well. And of course, for the ladies who are like, gosh, I want to be the next Molly. This story is incredible. Well, then I'll invite you to come on a Magnetize Your Man clarity call with me, where we get crystal clear what it is for you. We all have different internal dialogues and belief systems. So what's really keeping you stuck? And you also get a personalized strategy and tools just for you. So for that, come on over to magnetizeyourman.com or click simply that link below. Molly, thank you so much for being here today. It was such a joy to just kind of review that all, just kind of like marvel in it. And for the ladies, much love to you. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.